तारा, आपकी Superman. And like a superhero, I am here to guide you through an exciting journey this year. I welcome you all to CPD 2025, where learning gets a fresh upgrade. Today, you will explore real world skills for real world classrooms, designed to make your teaching future ready. Now, over to our wonderful moderator to set the stage for today's exciting session. See you soon.
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Tara. You are not just a super ma'am, you are the spark that lights up this learning revolution. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the passionate and purpose driven educators joining us today from across India and beyond. Let's begin with a thought. A teacher's growth never ends, it evolves with every classroom, every child, and every new idea. And today, you have shown up for growth, for curiosity, and for transformation. What better moment to celebrate this than S Chan's Continuous Professional Development Initiative 2025? We received an overwhelming response last year from thousands of educators like you, and we are proud to share that this initiative has empowered over 90,000 educators across India in just 2 years. Now, in its third edition, CPD 2025 arrives with even more power, purpose, and promise. This year, we are bringing you 30 expert led webinars, each designed to ignite ideas, inspire innovation, and elevate your teaching practices. And that's not all. Throughout the year, we will have multiple quizzes giving you a chance to win prizes worth up to rupees 1 lakh along with certificates for every session you attend. This isn't just a webinar series, it's a nationwide movement for professional transformation, a journey where continuous learning meets recognition and reward. Because when teachers grow, classrooms transform. This year's theme, Badalte Shiksha, captures the very spirit of this gathering. It speaks to the educators who adapt, evolve, and lead change. Those who believe teaching isn't just a profession, but a lifelong pursuit of excellence. And with that, I, Tanisha Tyagi, am absolutely delighted to welcome you to the very first session of CPD 2025, a conversation that sets the tone for what's to come. Today's session is titled Fostering Multilingualism in the Classroom, an essential theme in today's increasingly diverse learning environments. And who better to guide us through this than our incredible speaker? It's my absolute honor to introduce you to Ms. Deepthi Chawla. Ms. Chawla is an experienced English teacher and curriculum developer with the Delhi Board of School Education. She has held roles such as TGT English, mentor teacher, and guest faculty at Delhi University. With advanced degrees in TESOL and gender studies, she has collaborated with institutions like NCERT, SCERT, and the University of Delhi. A Fulbright grant recipient and published researcher, Ms. Chawla is currently pursuing an MSc in TESOL at the University of Stirling, Scotland. We are truly privileged to have her with us today. And here's a little extra incentive for all our engaged learners. After today's second session at 4:30 p.m., we will be hosting a first CPD 2025 quiz. Stand a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth up to rupees 10,000 and celebrate your learning journey with us. But before we dive into the session, here are a few quick housekeeping rules to help you make the most of this experience. All participants will be on mute to ensure a seamless session. Keep a pen and paper handy to jot down important information. The chat box will open during the Q&A and whenever the speaker invites interaction. To receive your e-certificates, don't forget to fill in the feedback form sent to you to your registered email ID on Mondays. We'll share the certificates and the feedback link by Monday. The quiz link will be shared with you after the final session ends at 5:30 p.m. And yes, all sessions will be streaming live on YouTube so you can revisit them at your convenience before attempting the quiz. So, without further delay, let's get started with the first session. Ms. Chawla, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, Tanisha ji. And I feel honored to be here and to be sharing my ideas regarding multilingualism in our classrooms. And before we move forward, people are asking for passcode in the chat box. If you could share it with them because others are unable to join. So, yes, I'm looking forward to this session not only because it's a topic that is very close to my heart. I have also worked in the field as a researcher as well. And because we are beginning the session, and when we begin a new session in our schools, I think that's the time where if we decide on certain approaches, certain key strategies that we're going to take forward in our classroom, I think it sets the tone for the entire session and is really helpful because when we begin well, we plan well, and it goes a long way in helping us and our students try out something new as well as get benefit from it as well. So without wasting more time, uh, Tanisha ji, I'm unable to share my screen actually. If you could make me co-host.
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, please try now.
Yeah, yes, I can now. Thank you. I hope the PPT is visible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. So, as you all are looking at the topic, embracing multilingualism in the language classroom, strategies for Indian teachers, please feel free to raise your hands or ask questions in between if you want. But before we move on to the official session, I hope all of you already have a notebook and a pen in hand. Or if not, please feel free to use chat box and answer the following question. Okay, I'm going to give you different situations. And for each situation, all you have to do is think for a second or two and answer which language do you use. Okay. So, which language or languages do you use when you curse or use an expletive? Which languages do you use when you want to express love to someone? Which languages do you use when you're helping children prepare for school's annual day? Which languages do you use when you want to check that your learners understand your instructions, irrespective of whichever subject you're teaching? Which languages do you use when you have to explain the meaning of a complicated word in a reading text, but you don't want to waste time? Which languages do you use when a learner is ill and wants to tell you? Which languages do you use when a learner is having difficulty expressing themselves in the target language? Which languages do you use when you want to compare the similarities and differences in meaning or pronunciation? And before we move forward, I am hoping if a few of you could share your response in the chat box, okay? All right. English, Hindi, English, Hindi, Hindi, English and Hindi, English and Hindi, English, Hindi, both English and Hindi, Marathi, okay, nice. English and Marathi. Finally, I know we have pan Indian audience. Bengali, okay, all right. So See, your responses are giving me an insight into multiple things. Um, the regions you belong to or your school is situated in, the kind of learners you have, and the linguistic diversity they bring, right? And it's very interesting to see that many of you use only Hindi, many of you use either or, depending on the situation. Many of you use English only in all, even when you're cursing or using an expletive while driving on roads. Think about it. And let's again go back to our presentation. All right, so this sort of gives us a picture of how diverse our country is. And so this is our session on multilingualism. It sort of brings in elements of so many languages. We belong to so many different linguistic cultures, because every language has a culture of its own. Now, in your chat box, all the people who are here, can you please write your names and what your name means along with the languages you speak? Even if you cannot write, what are the languages that you speak? Also, write your name. Okay, so English, Hindi, Gujarati, English, and Hindi, Tamil, Hindi, English, English, Hindi, Bangla, Gujarati, Kumauni, all right, Hindi and English, Sindhi, okay, Chaiti, nice name, Chaiti, very interesting. I love the meaning of your name. Sujata Sarkar, Goddess of Beauty, Bengali, nice. I didn't know that, though I knew the meaning of the name Sujata. Marwadi, Punjabi, Marathi. I think Nidhi, you win hands down. I think you are the person who knows most of the languages. So great, fantastic. Nidhi Sharma, and yes, Nidhi means wealth. And my younger sister is also Nidhi, so that's also interesting. Welcome, Saurabh. Jaya Victory. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for being a sport and sharing so many beautiful things about yourselves with me. Now, see, why do you think we did this small little activity, and what did it do to establish, what did it do to make sure that this session goes well? It sort of establish a connect between all of us. We kind of now see, we know so many languages which are common, and many of us have names that may have similar meaning, but they are different words in different languages, right? I was hoping that we'll get words like those. Marianne, I love the meaning name of mother, right? Okay, Mary, right? Fantastic. Sana means praise. Okay, nice. Polomi, meaning daughter of Polomon. Ah, nice. Okay, so all of you have a fair idea of um, what your students also are going to bring to your classroom, right? Irrespective of which grades you teach, whether it is grade 1 or whether it is grade 7, 8, right? Children always bring in so much of linguistic diversity that you will be, you may actually feel overwhelmed. And multilingualism and classroom actually means that we kind of accept and we respect the fact that children that we have have the ability to speak multiple languages. They have cultural linguistic diversity, so it's a multilingual class. And then children will have enhanced cognitive skills, because when we think in multiple languages, we think from different perspectives, right? When we belong to different linguistic cultures, we bring in different intelligences as well. So when I'm talking, so for example, the word snow itself in Western culture has 50 different meanings, right? There are different 50 different terms that we use for snow. But if I talk of a person from, let's say, even middle India or even North India, I belong to North India. I am situated, I belong to Haryana, UP, and Delhi equally, right? So my family is spread in these three states. Though I myself come from Pakistan, we migrated at the time of partition. Yet I only have one word for snow, right? But if you go to a different country where snow falls and round the year, say for example a country like Greenland or Canada, they have 50 different terms for snow, right? So the kind of linguistic richness that children can bring to the classroom is amazing. Then it sort of also helps, being a multilingual classroom also establishes the fact that we as educators respect that it can, these multiple languages can actually help facilitate communication across communities, right? Different children, different backgrounds, we all acknowledge the fact that each child is an individual and we need to respect them. So this communication across communities is also helped through this. And then it supports global connectivity and understanding. It sort of helps us to recognize that we belong to different countries. Now let's quickly take a look at our situation. So multilingualism is the ability to use multi-language languages in India, rich linguistic diversity with 22 official languages and hundreds of dialects, right? So then classroom reality, just like our reality of our group, we at least, at the very least, know two languages, and many of us, like Nidhi, know five or more languages. I have a friend who teaches in Maharashtra, somewhere close to Nagpur. And she knows Chhattisgarhi, she knows Marathi, she knows Hindi, she knows English, she knows a couple of local dialects like Gondi. So she knows over six languages. She can fluently speak in those six languages. And half of those languages she learned because her students brought in those languages in the classroom. And it's amazing to see what teachers do when they're teaching, right? Now, multilingualism in the classroom, it's why it is important to talk about it is also because it not only brings our focus to the language diversity and cultural diversity, it also helps us build cultural competence among our students. And why is cultural competence important? We'll come back to that in a bit. Also, it helps us build collaboration. We all know that wars have been fought over languages, right? And that was primarily because people were not ready to respect each other's language. The supremacy of one language over the other is never right. Those are certain political issues that I would like to avoid at the moment. But at the same time, coming back to the topic, how multilingualism can help us build collaboration and cultural competence and why it is important. So let's go to the why first. Why is cultural competence important? We are part of a world that is becoming increasingly smaller, especially with the advent of social media and all kind of digital ways to communicate. I'm talking to so many of you who are not even in India, right? I'm talking to a global audience. So I need to be culturally aware of what issues might be sensitive for you all, right? Similarly, our students eventually go out into the world in places where they may come across, not may, but will come across people from different backgrounds. So if they have the cultural competence to be able to communicate, and work together. So collaboration also comes in, and work together with other people from other linguistic backgrounds. I think that helps. And it is one of the most important competencies that our new education policy and our curriculum framework is also talking about. Now, how does this linguistic diversity manifest in your classroom? I'm interested to know that. I would love to see a few responses. How does linguistic diversity manifest in your classrooms? A couple of responses, none more. Okay. All right. It will help us in understanding different cultures. No, but how does it? How do you see how do you see multilingualism in your classrooms? Okay, so as you write, I think I'll share my experiences, the classrooms that I have been to. So most of my students come from different states, different parts of India. Most of the students that we have in our classrooms come from UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, a lot of Bundelkhandi speaking children, and then we also have children from Haryana. We have children from Punjab. We have children from Bengal, and we also have children from UP. So the belt of UP that speaks Awadhi and a mix of, I would say, so there's this dialect that would fall between Awadhi and Bhojpuri. So a lot of students also come from that belt, right? And it's always a linguistically very rich classroom, because I would not say that most of the students that come to my classroom or classrooms in Delhi have Hindi as their first language. They don't, right? So that's how multilingualism manifests in my classroom. And it's interesting because the term that we use for water in Hindi is very different from, sometimes very different from the term they use at their homes. So that's the kind of linguistic diversity that I'm talking about. And I'm sure in your classrooms as well, there will be variety of ways in which linguistic diversity manifests, right? So let's move forward. Now, what are the benefits of multilingualism in education? The first one, of course, is a cognitive advantages. Cognitive advantages mean it all enhance problem solving things, critical thinking skills, linguistic awareness. That so enhance problem solving and critical thinking. Why? Because uh, when we are talking from when we are comfortable in one language, but we're addressing uh, issues in another language, our problem solving not only involves solving the actual problem, but also overcoming the language barrier. Critical thinking is improved because then we are able to think from multiple perspectives. Critical thinking is not just about um, critiquing something, but finding different ways of approaching the problem. Then we also build linguistic awareness, which is better understanding of language structures. Then we also help build cultural competence, increased empathy, and global perspective. And we are all aiming towards building, I would say, building a, how do I put it, international mindedness among our children. That's a primary role. And of course it helps in achieving overall learning outcomes, because it helps us improve learning outcomes among our children, especially in early grades. So the foundational stage as well as the preparatory stage, which is pre-nursery, so K to 5, definitely. And of course for middle stage as well. So it does affect academic performance, because once you connect with the child, stating that your language is as important as all the languages you're going to learn in this class, I think the ownership, the connect with the teacher, the classroom, the students, their peers, it improves amazingly well. As that improves, it shows an impact on academic performance as well. We all know there have been studies that if there is psychological safety, when the child feels psychologically safe in an environment, feels wanted, feels connected, it has a positive impact on academic performance, right? And when it has an impact on academic performance, it sort of kind of helps children depend on those languages that are already there in the classroom. Can you think of any other benefits you may have observed? If you could share it in the chat box. Can you share a few other benefits apart from, or including the ones that are there on the screen? Cognitive, linguistic, cultural competence, academic performance. Do we have a few responses in the chat box? Communication, okay, they learn to appreciate diversity, enhances brain functions, greater engagement in the classroom, fantastic. Ah, Chandaji writes they want to share their own ideas easily. Yes, self expression becomes much easier. Yes, very important. At times it is fun too. Yes, absolutely. And classrooms should be fun places, right? It helps build communication with special children. That's also important because you have touched upon a very important idea, Poojaji, because this the multilingual approach ensures inclusion. It brings in inclusivity in the way that every child feels wanted and connected. Yes, so very true. Yes, so social cohesion, right? So fantastic ideas many of you are sharing. And so yeah, students feel inclusive. Yes, they do not hesitate. True, 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 very true, right? Okay, so we'll go back to the presentation now. Okay, so we've okay, now very important question. I'm going to go back to the chat box. Do you have a multilingual classroom? Do you have a multilingual classroom? Do you think you have a multilingual classroom? Okay, let's see. How many of you feel? Okay, yes, yes. There are a few no's. I would request the no's to also please write why you're writing no, if you can, if that's possible. Ishwari ji, for example, Sarika ji says yes. There was someone who said no. Sayed ji, could you please also write why do you feel that you do not have a multilingual classroom? If your child knows more than one or two languages, if you have children who speak Hindi or some other regional language, English and another language, even if they are just able to speak, not read. I'm not talking of reading and writing here. I'm only talking of speaking because there are many unscripted languages. Am I audible? Can someone confirm?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, okay, all right. Because my screen says something went wrong.
No, no,
Okay,
your screen is also visible. Currently, you are
all
on,
right,
do you
all right.
think you have a multilingual classroom?
All right. So many of you say yes, many of you say no, but let's see how what the policy perspective says. Now, policy realizes and accepts the fact that our classrooms are multilingual. multilingual classrooms because children come in from different parts. So a classroom in Goa is particularly does not only have children who are from Konkani background. Children, and I'm not saying this offhand. I have been to Goan classrooms. I've done research there. That's why, and not just any one part of Goa. I've been to the interiors of Goa. I've been to Kepem. I've been to Vasco. I've been to Madgaon. So I've been to different parts of Goa, and I have seen children not just who are Konkani, they're Bengali students, the students who speak Kannada and Telugu. Lot of children from Karnataka are there in certain parts of Goa. Then a lot of Odia speaking children are there. Lot of, because lot of people have migrated from Odisha to Goa for work. Similar is the case with many places such as all the multi all our cities, let's say Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, all these places are melting pots, right? So children are coming from all over the places. Unless you are situated in a very, very local, regional kind of a setup where children are coming from one particular community, most of our classrooms will have children speaking different languages and will have a lot of richness. You will have a lot of richness in your classrooms. Now, what does the policy say? Exactly. So, NEP 2020, it promotes multilingualism and power of language in teaching and learning. NCF also emphasizes multilingual approach to enhance understanding and expression, especially in foundational preparatory stages. It goes on in middle stages as well. It By the time children reach secondary stage, they are not promoting a multilingual approach because by then we expect children to perform well in certain target languages, because otherwise it will become very difficult to achieve those learning outcomes of that particular target language, whether it is English, which is the case in most of North India, or if it's any other language. Even foreign languages, many of our schools are teaching foreign languages these days. So depending on whether you're teaching the language as language first language or second language or third language, you still need to address issues that arise from a multilingual classroom. And by issues I mean all the strengths, right? I'm not talking of issues as a negative approach. Both advocate for mother tongue, local tongue as medium of instruction where possible. They encourage development of bilingual textbooks and teaching learning materials. Now, very important question. How can you align your teaching with these policies? That is something that you need to reflect on. There cannot be straight answers here. Though in this presentation, I'll be sharing a few strategies with you that you may find helpful, right? Then the policy, if you have to read the policy perspective verbatim. Now, NEP says multilingualism has great cognitive benefits to young students. Children will be exposed to different languages early on, but with particular emphasis on the mother tongue, starting from the foundational stage onwards. As I mentioned, very I think a lot of stress is being placed on multilingualism, uh, using multilingual approach to teaching languages in foundational stage and preparatory stage, a lot of focus. So from K to 5, K to 5 classrooms, definitely. Now what does NCF says? Language is not just a medium of thinking, nor merely a tool for acquiring different forms of understanding. This is very important. Language education makes effective communication possible and equally develops aesthetic expression and appreciation. Reasoning and critical thinking are very closely linked with language use, and these are valuable capacities to be developed. So, it's not just about connect and ownership as we were discussing earlier. From that, once you feel connected to the classroom, how it will, how it is going to impact the whole teaching learning processes, your entire transaction throughout the year or the time that the children are going to be with you, and what they're going to achieve at the end of, whether it's one day, one week, one month, or one year, right? So it's, you're not just allowing them to build upon content knowledge, but you're giving them, through multilingual education, you are actually giving them tools to create their own knowledge systems within certain restrictions. That is how multilingualism can be used as a tool. Now, what are the core principles of multilingual education? Students learn content in two or sometimes more different languages, often home language and English, which is the case in um, many of the states in India and abroad as well, but mostly English and one or two regional languages, I would say. Uh, Another, so the three core principles in this would be student identity, integration, how it helps. Multilingualism needs to be integrated throughout the school community, and of course additive bilingualism. They bring in their home language and that adds to their academic achievement. In most of the private schools, and I'm now going to draw a slight distinction between private and public schools. In private schools it's usually bilingualism that is more prevalent, but in government schools the classrooms are definitely multilingual. And bilingualism also doesn't really work because children do not come from a background where they're speaking just two languages, or they do not just bring in one home language. So I may have one home language, but another student may have another, and another student may have another. For example, I'll give you an interesting case, my own case. So my home language was actually Jhangi. My parents used to speak Jhangi, which is a regional dialect of Punjabi, but was spoken in the district Jhang in Pakistan, right? So my home language was Jhangi, which is not spoken anywhere in North India, at least not in UP where I initially was schooled, right? And not if Delhi, you will find people who speak Jhangi, but it's not a very popular dialect that is spoken. Then people around me in my school used to speak Hindi. So ideally, Hindi becomes a second language for me. And then English. It began as a third or a foreign language to me, but then it became more or less like a first language because I began to think in English rather than think in Hindi or Jhangi. So i- this is very fluid. The whole concept of languages being first, second, and foreign are very fluid based on how you're using these languages. English in India is often termed as a second language, though, come to think of it, the definition of second language actually states that a second language, by definition, is a language that is spoken around everywhere, you know. So my home language could be XYZ, but the second language would be which is spoken in the marketplace, in the community, in anywhere and everywhere that I go, whether it's a library, whether it's a bus, whether it's a train station. Now English is not ideally a second language in India because every state has its own language, right? We are a linguistically rich country, which adds so much more flavor uh, to our entire upbringing, as well as the process of education that we follow. So what do you do in your classroom, right? So what most of us already do or should be doing, if we are already doing great, already a lot of claps for you. But if you're not doing any of these, I think these are the few very important things that you should do as part of your as part of using multilingualism as an approach in your language classrooms. So validate all languages, honor all the home languages equally, don't just stick to one or two. Then encourage translanguaging. Let students mix languages for understanding. It's all right. So whether you're an English teacher or a Bangla teacher teaching in a different setting, do not think of the target language alone, especially for K to 8. Do not just focus on the target language, especially when children are doing an activity or they are going to give you any responses. Encourage trans languages, let them interact in different languages, encourage them to compare different languages. So build that meta linguistic awareness. Now meta is thinking about how I am thinking, right? It is very important for children to know how this is happening, because once they grasp, what happens is often in classrooms we focus on what is happening rather than how it is happening. So we need to make sure that our children uh, become aware of how these languages are common or different. So let allow them time and space to compare and contrast. And I'll come back to how you can do it. Then use multilingual resources, of course, dictionaries, visuals, peer support. Scaffolding is very important. Adapt tasks by language proficiency, right? It cannot be that you expect children to be doing let's say level 1 thing today and suddenly they go up to level 6. That's not going to happen, right? And promote collaborative learning. We all know it's very important because that's where the future is. We all need to collaborate and work together. Reduce language anxiety, normalize mistakes. Making mistakes, when do we make mistakes? We make mistakes when we are actually doing something. Without doing anything, we won't make mistakes. And none of us are perfect. Right now, in the entire presentation, I must have made multiple mistakes. Many of you may not have noticed, some of you may have noticed it, but that's all right as long as I'm able to convey, as long as the message is clear. I think those little mistakes do not matter. And we are teaching children not just to pass one exam, but we're teaching children to help them build their futures. So normalize mistakes, because once we keep on pointing, once they shut down because they are afraid of making mistakes, that's where learning stops. Learning happens when we are making mistakes. And allow them code switching, it's all right. There are two terms, code switching and code mixing. So if I say, don't go chillowing on me. Chillana is a Hindi word for shouting, right? So don't go chillowing on me. This is code mixing. I'm mixing two codes, so English and Hindi. That should be discouraged. But if I say, please don't shout at me, मुझे नहीं अच्छा लगता, I don't like it, right? So that is code switching. So I said something in English and then I switched to Hindi because I was not able to express myself in English. I could not find the right words. I had some false start, whatever the case may be, but normalize them, right? And then engage families and communities. I'm sure many of us have a lot of different activities where we invite parents. I have a child of my own, so I get invited to so many activities in his school. Though I'm surprised that even their school is not doing anything where children get to involve in exploring all these things. It's more of a sports day or a fete or a fest or a annual day celebration. But can an annual day celebration be about celebrating our linguistic um, diversity, depending on how school wants to involve community in it, right? These are certain ideas that you can go back with. Now, let's talk of hardcore strategies. We have limited time. So, the first strategy is translanguaging. As I told you all, translanguaging is about using all linguistic resources to make meaning, and we do it all the time, right? We come across as a difficult article in a newspaper, and we are not familiar with some bits and pieces of information from it, but we try to use different, we rely on different sources to understand it. And I'm saying this is because once I was reading something and I realized that I cannot make sense of this in English. I'm proficient in English, so what's the problem? I went and read it again and I realized it talks of a game which I'm not familiar with because I've never played it. I'm not familiar with, it's not played in India often. It was about baseball, right? So despite knowing the language, I was not able to make sense because I was not familiar with the register, which was specific to that particular game, right? Now, this is what happens. And we need to be very particular about how allowing students to use different languages allows students to process information in their strongest language, whether it's Bangla, whether it's Gujarati, whether it's Marathi, Hindi, whichever language they are comfortable with. And I'm talking specific K to 8, right? Then guide them and encourage them to talk about it in target language. So again, whether your target language is Hindi, whether your target language is English, I've been to schools in Rajasthan and Haryana where teachers complain that we can't even teach Hindi to these kids because they're not familiar with it, right? So an example of using this could be think, pair, share. It's an activity which can be used in a large classrooms as well. All you have to do is ask your child to talk to the person sitting next to them, and that's it. And the final result can be presented in the target language. Question you need to go back with is, how might you incorporate translanguaging in your next lesson, whichever next lesson you've planned. Think how you can plan translanguages, whether it's for a writing task, whether it's for a brainstorming, whether it's for a pre-reading task. whichever task you are planning. Can you think of translanguaging with that? Second strategy is multilingual word walls. We all create word walls and dictionary walls and all that. Many of us have been tasked with decorating the walls. So rather than putting up inane cartoons and stuff, why not think of multilingual word walls? Create a visual display of key vocabulary in multiple languages, include translations, definitions, example sentences. This will work very well in grades 3, 4, 5, because till about grade 2, we focus more on building sight vocabulary, building smaller vocab chunks, right? But for grades 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, multilingual word walls will work brilliantly. Encourage students to add words from their home languages. So that's where you draw connect. That's how you're going to bring in elements of their cultural their culture, their home, themselves, right? Then you can use the same for vocabulary games and activities. So think the question you're going back with, you can take a screenshot, or if you want to note down what themes or topics would benefit most from multilingual word walls in your class. One suggestion that I can give you is, if you're doing a non-fiction text in a language classroom, it works brilliantly with it. If a topic touches upon any topic which is related to EVS, it will work brilliantly. Then if you're encouraging children to write, you know, so for writing task, helping them build written skills, whether you're teaching them how to write a paragraph or how to put 2 or 3 paragraphs together, I think word walls help not just with the vocabulary, but it also helps in building coherence, cohesion, brainstorming, building ideas. So it kind of helps. And these can change every 15 days or a month. You can have monthly multilingual word walls. Then you can have language biography activities. So students create visual representations of their language backgrounds. You can have language flowers, language portraits. Now, what are language flowers, language maps, and language portraits? Uh, so all you have to do is, so let's say you create a flower shape, and then within it, children can write. If the meaning of the word is hope, right? So you write just one word, hope, and let children write whoever feels their name connects most with. This activity can be done for children in grade 1 and 2, right? Language portraits could be, if I am Deepthi, how would I draw myself in terms of language? I come from Pakistan, speak Jhangi, speak Punjabi a little. I do a little bit because I have stayed in UP my entire life. So I bring in a lot of linguistic elements from UP, which is slightly a mix of Khadi Boli and Awadhi. Then I've studied in Delhi throughout my life, so I have a lot of Delhi flavor in my language, right? So when I draw my portrait, it will be a mishmash, and it will be a very, very interesting, powerful representation of different cultures, right? And then language maps, which languages they identify with most. These are certain very interesting activities that need not sometimes need not directly be linked to what you do in the classroom as part of your syllabus, but when you're teaching them how to improve their written skills, when you are focusing more on improving their vocabulary, when you're focusing more on speaking listening activities, these are the activities that you can do then. Use as a starting point for discussions on language and culture. Now, a beautiful example that I've shared here is the Arabic quilt. It's a very beautiful story how a teacher encourages multilingual approach uh, towards better understanding of each other in the classroom. It's a story of this girl, and right, but this girl is a migrant from Egypt and goes to an American school where she is ridiculed for her culture and for her language and everything. But the teacher supports her, and she notices that she has this drawing of a quilt that her grandmother had shared. right? And it was delicately hand embroidered, more closely resembling to the kantha stitch that we are familiar with. So the teacher invites her mother into the classroom, and they all sew, sorry, not sew, they all knit their names in Arabic, and then they make a class quilt and display it outside the class, encouraging others. So the other teachers then think of, so one teacher has more Japanese students, so they make it in Japanese, and they create class quilt, more like a class symbol eventually. Beautiful story, a beautiful way of teachers responding to a multilingual classroom. You would all love this story. Go ahead, read it. It's available on YouTube just to listen also, so whichever works for you. Then the fourth strategy, which is multilingual literature circles, form groups based on shared languages, assign roles, discussion leader, summarizer, word wizard, etc. Allow discussions in home languages again, and then allow children to translate the text. Now, once they have done that, whatever final task you give, whether it's presenting a report, a character analysis, thematic analysis, whatever, I'll ask them to do it in target language. So now that allows scope for everyone to learn from each other and present, right? And having different role helps, because then everyone is included, right? Okay, language of the week. You can celebrate language of the week in your classroom, in your schools. A lot of schools do it. Language of the month, karke, many students do it. Highlight a different language each week and include lesser known ones as well. So in our case, whether it's Maithili, whether it's any other spoken language which is not scripted, think about it. If your children bring in that language, you can pick that language up as English teachers or Hindi teachers or Gujarati teachers. You can think of a language that's there in your classroom, but needs addressal beyond the school's curriculum, right? Teach basic greetings, cultural information, invite students or community members to share their language, and then create a multilingual environment with signs and labels. So for a week, let's say, we'll all greet each other with a word which is common to Bangla, right? So something like that. That helps build connect, address diversity, and make children aware of so many other nuances of language. Again, this particular activity, which is greetings, can be done with class 1 and 2. In 3, 4, 5, language of the week could focus more on another theme altogether. It could be not just basic greetings, it could also be asking for directions, it could also be giving directions, it could also be seeking basic information about the other person, right? So it depends. You have to then increase the level of the activity. Now, language of the week can stay common from preschool to grade 8, but the activities that you do for different grades will be different. Use of multilingual digital tools. Now we have a lot of technology support as well. We have AI with us. We all use AI, and AI is going to stay. So we can actually make use of um, knowing what we don't know and enabling our students to build upon it, right? So there are translation apps. Of course, it needs domain specific knowledge. You cannot do anything extensive on AI yet, but it still helps to kickstart our discussions. Then you can create multilingual dictionaries. Then you have language learning platforms, and you can actually teach digital literacy skills along with language skills. So this also becomes very, very effective when we use different digital tools. And chat gpt, Gemini, both respond to different languages. Even DeepSeek, for that matter, responds to different languages, and all three are AI tools. Then there are multiple apps. Duolingo is just one of them, but there are other apps which focus on. NCRT has their own app which has variety of languages. I think they're working on all 22 languages. So there are apps that you can use to depend on digital resources. Then of course peer language tutoring, we all know that peer support, peer learning helps. You can pair students, make buddies. You're already, I'm sure, doing it, but make sure that, whether it's pairing, whether it's group learning, with whatever you encourage, maintain those pairs and groups for some period of time. Don't keep on changing groups every now and then. The groups should at least continue for 2 weeks to 1 month, 1.5 month, and then children can be reshuffled, because that
Hi,
sort of
sorry to
gives them
interrupt.
time
We are
to
running out of time,
understand each
Max.
other better. Then develop intercultural communication skills and foster collaborative learning environment. Now the last question again is for you all to ponder upon: how will you structure peer tutoring sessions in your classroom? Another important aspect, we are reaching the end of the presentation, is assessment. What would you do? Multilingual assessment, no assessment, assessment in target language? So now how to address assessment issues, right? uh, it's all right to do all of that while teaching, but what to assess? When we when we understand assessment is, please look at formative assessments and summative assessments separately. You're doing constantly doing formative assessments, so these formative assessments can be multilingual. Summative assessments will always be in the target language. During formative assessments also, you can encourage target language assessments, but you can always give them support and appreciation for bringing in the multilingual elements in the presentations. But at the end of the day, our purpose is to ensure the children learn target language, so summatives will be in target language. Multilingualism is a approach, is an approach to teaching. It cannot be an approach to assessment. The assessment would be always in the target language. Then start small, certain best practices, introduce one strategy at a time, give it time to settle in the classroom. Through, I have shared 8 strategies. You need not do all 8. Within those 8 there were multiple activities. You can just pick one activity and try it out for a couple of months. At most you can try out 2 to 4 new activities or new strategies in a year, because you also need time to replan, go back, think what works, what didn't work, what you need to modify. So is the case with your students. They also need time to sort of adjust to the new strategies that you're using. So start small, one strategy at a time, be consistent, involve your students, let them guide language choices, think, listen to them, listen to your students, collaborate with your colleagues. Your colleagues, is your community, immediate community, that you can depend on the most. And regularly reflect on, evaluate the effectiveness of your strategies. Overcome your challenge, address parent concerns through clear communication. Parents will feel कि आप क्या पढ़ा रहे हो, what are you teaching my children? I sent my child to learn English, you are teaching Gujarati, Hindi, you are encouraging them to speak in Bangla. Why are you doing this? So the communication has to be clear. They also need to be, I would say, oriented towards multilingual approach. Manage classroom dynamics to ensure inclusion. It cannot be that if out of 40, 30 children are using a particular language, so the other 10, remaining 10 should be overlooked. No, even if there's one child speaking a different language, that child should be invited and made to feel part of.
Deepti, sorry to interrupt. Actually, yeah, it's already 14, so we are out of time.
Yeah, we are just done. We are done. And depend on multiple resources. Multilingualism is an asset, not an obstacle. Implement, start with one new approach, and share. Questions. If there are any questions,
Participants,
clarifications,
if you have any
yes.
question, please drop your questions in the chat box so that we can take at least one or two question. Are there any questions, participants?
Somebody has raised hand. Neetu Lohar. Neetu, can you please write your question? Is it possible?
Yeah, there's one question. How can KG teachers use play-based learn to support language development in
Hmm.
multilingual classroom?
Okay, so as I said, Chandaji, you can help them make their own portraits. You can have flowers, language flowers. So if you can choose word of the day, for example. So within the strategies that I've shared, you can find out the language flowers work well, language portraits work well in younger classrooms. Then the kind of quilt we were talking about, one language, and you're creating a quilt using writing the names of all the children in that language. So you can paint, you can ask them to scribble whatever they want to do, and you can create them in that one particular language. So for example, if your children, one or two children are from let's say Gujarat, but your classroom is predominantly, let's say, a Hindi speaking or a Bengali speaking classroom, you can actually have Gujarati and write all the children's name in Gujarati and display. So they would not just connect with another language. The children who are speaking in Gujarati and know Gujarati well will also feel connected better to it. This can work in KG, this can work in 3 for 5 as well. In KG it's more about visual support, encouraging them to speak more, giving them chance to speak in their own language, asking children to connect with them and speak a few terms in their language. That works very well.
Thank you so
We
much.
need information in detail. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your exceptional session. I hope your insights and expertise have undoubtedly enriched our understanding of our participants today. And thank you for the valuable strategies like embrace linguistic diversity as a strength, integrate home languages into classroom, create an inclusive and participatory learning environment, and many more. So let's use these powerful tools to empower our students and elevate our teaching practices. Together, we are building classrooms that reflect the evolving needs of learners in a multilingual world. A heartfelt thank you to all the educators who joined us today. Your engagement and commitment truly define the spirit of Badalti Shiksha, Badalte Shikshak. But the day is not over yet. Up next at 4:30 p.m., join us for a final session of the day, Visual Literacy through Picture Books with Ms. Bhavna Gupta, followed by the CPD 2025 quiz, where you stand a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth up to rupees 10,000. So stay tuned, stay inspired, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you so much, Deepti. Thank you once again. It was
Thank you,
lovely.
everyone. Bye bye.